Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025, 6 p.m. We do have a quorum present, so I'd like to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District. The board packet has been sent out to all the commissioners and been posted publicly, and the meeting's been properly warned, so we will begin the meeting now. First item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Are there any requests for additions or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we will follow the agenda as presented in the packet. Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. Are there any members of the public present? I know we have one member of the public present in our meeting room, Josh Tyler. Welcome back to good to see everybody to our meeting. For those of you who don't know, Josh was employed for many years at CSWD. But are there any members of the public present in this meeting room or via phone or Zoom who wish to address the board at this point in time? Becky, your hand is up.
Yes, we have an attendee in the Zoom meeting named John. I'm going to I'm going to press allow to talk on them for a second, so they'll be joining us momentarily.
Okay, I do see. John, can you hear us? We're in our public comment period, so this is an opportunity if you wish to address the Board of Commissioners. This would be the time to do it.
Muted.
John, you're muted if you do wish to address us.
All set. He says all set.
All set.
He looks like he's all set. Thank you.
I'm hearing no other members of the public present in person or via Zoom or the phone who wish to address the board. So we will close the public comment period and move on to item number 3, which is the consent agenda. And just a reminder for all commissioners that unless an item is requested to be removed from the consent agenda, the items that are contained within it, and there are 9 tonight, I'm not going to enumerate them, but unless there's a request to remove one of those for further discussion, they will be deemed to be accepted and approved as presented in the consent agenda. So are there any requests by a commissioner to remove an item from the consent agenda? I saw Ken's hand up first. Ken?
Yeah, 3.4, please.
The finance, warrant, and cash investment and reserve balances, we'll pull that out. Alan?
Executive Director update.
And the executive director update, which is item number 3.3.
I have one change to the minutes. Mike Sullivan was present at the organizational meeting, so I'll make that change.
Okay. That would be a housekeeping item. We don't need to remove that for any further discussion. But we have 2 requests now to remove items from the consent agenda, item 3.3 and 3.4. If there are no other requests, the remaining items in the consent agenda will be accepted and deemed approved as presented in the packet. Let's go in order of requests. Ken, you were first.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'd like to ask a couple questions about the reserve funds, and I ask you to tell me if it needs a longer discussion or something. But if I have questions, I think other people might have sort of similar questions, especially new people. And so I'm wanting just to help my understanding. And is John there? Would he answer a few questions maybe for me?
Let's pose the questions to the chair and then we'll decide who gets them.
Okay, so the first question is just an understanding about a little bit about how they fit in. You don't see these funds in the budget. I assume that's because they're not income and they're not revenue and they're not expenses. Are they just assets or something?
John, can you answer that question?
So the funds are actually a claim against equity.
Okay.
So I suppose you can think about them as like an asset. If we were a for-profit entity, this would be equity akin to a partnership where each partner has a claim to that equity. The funds each have a claim to the equity.
Are they real things? Are they buckets or are they just designations? Or are they like separate accounts that literally are separate somehow?
They're not really separate. They're more like designations, and
Okay.
the cash is all commingled and pulled up in a different section of the balance sheet,
Okay.
which actually attached later on in the presentation.
Okay, so if the budget, if we had a perfect budget and our expenses were exactly as we thought and the income was exactly the same, I assume they just wouldn't change, they'd be exactly the same.
It depends on the purpose of the fund. For example, the MRF Project Capital Fund is a new one we created. And we're basically routing any excess equity or excess earnings to that fund. So we should expect to see that one changing with the net income or the net change in our financial position each year or each month as we go.
Okay. Okay,
It will be fixed. The solid, where is it? The landfill post-closure fund will remain at $1 million until the ops folks tell me that they have a different calculation for that number.
okay,
You know, the community cleanup fund, it's always reset to 95. So we're basically really just looking at these at the end of the year. What we've done in the past is only update them once a year. My intent is to update them each month as we go through this new year. So we
Mhm.
should, some of them moving. The biosolids fund will be fixed until we do something with that. But just about all of these are gonna be fixed until we get the MRF off and running.
Mhm.
We're routing all the excess to the MRF Project Capital Fund. The debt service fund will bump up once we start making principal payments.
Okay. Do you think it would be helpful for us, like as people who see this intermittently, rather than just seeing an absolute number for these, which you're kind of like, well, is that the same as last time? That they could be in an indication on a monthly basis whether it's changed or not, and if so, maybe what the reason would be, so that we could understand.
Sure.
Yeah,
You
and
know-
some of the funds, we do post expenses against those funds as well, right? Like the
Right.
community. So when a town uses their funds, their monies out of the community cleanup fund, you'll see that number decrease, right? So that one will change. The landfill post closure fund will change as expenses are booked against that, for work at the closed landfill. So yes, some of those funds will go up and down throughout the year, according to certain expenses. And as John said, others, and again, if you may remember, and we should go over this again, just in general, we'll plan on making this presentation in September. John is actively working on closing out the year as we speak. And so in September, we'll present the final year end for fiscal 25. And you'll be able to see, or we will point out, how the funds changed. And because according to the waterfall effect, how we replenish those funds each year, some will hit a max, right? So for example, the solid waste management fund, when that hits its max as it is now at $1 million, anything that is would be designated for that fund that is not needed goes down to the next one in the hierarchy. And then it continues to flow down.
Oh, is this the hierarchy that we can see? Is this?
This is not the hierarchy. This is just the listing of the funds. But we
Could they be that way in the hierarchy, perhaps?
in the list.
Not easily, no.
Okay, forget that. So, under the 16 million with the double lines, those two numbers underneath that, do they have anything to do with the 16 million? I notice they don't add up to 16 million.
Right, so the cash equivalents and the investments, that's total cash we have on hand.
Yeah.
And then beneath that are the liabilities that we would have to settle from that cash.
Mm-hmm.
I think of these as kind of insurance claims. If they all came due at once, we couldn't cover the $16.7 million without liquidating the entire organization. But the likelihood that they're all gonna come due at once is not very likely.
Oh.
We have cash on hand to cover, 11 of that, 11 million, and then we've got a current liability claim of 400,000, so whatever that math comes out. So we could cover today
Mm-hmm.
about, $10, $11 million of those those claims.
Okay. Okay, well, thanks. I'll keep wanting to like think. So I would love, I was thinking if it suits you, if you think it's helpful to have an indicator whether they change and to perhaps have an indicator of what the target is for them. So like if one's getting out lower, that we know that it's lower than we want it to be for some reason. I don't know if that's helpful to board members or not, but
There's a memo that
Yep.
that does that.
okay.
I can circulate it.
Yeah, we'll
That-
go over that again in September, because it has been.
Thank you for your time. I know that was a big distraction, but thank you it helps me.
It's important, and that was the plan, so I'm glad you brought it up, and now folks can be looking forward to that. Riveting.
Yeah, it's important information,
It is.
very important. And that, those are all your questions. At this point, thank you very much. Alan, your question was item 3.3, the executive director update.
I am sure that in the past couple of decades, I've asked this question before. I would like to know more, again, about the city of Burlington solid waste generation tax. And as I learn a little bit more tonight, I may have a couple more follow-on questions.
Yeah. So this part in my update was to answer the question that was posed by a member of the public at our last meeting regarding whether or not CSWD pays that, basically it's the recycling tax that the city charges. The solid waste generation tax charged by the city of Burlington, in part due to the fact that they collect recycling. So there's a tax that is charged to any hauler, and we are considered a hauler of solid waste. And our calculation, of course, is not as simple as that of the regular haulers, Casella, Myers, Goodyear. They are charged a fee per residential dwelling. So they tell the city how many accounts they have. They pay by the quarter times that tax number. Because we don't have a number of households, we have to estimate that. So this goes back to 2002 or one. And we had a memorandum of agreement with the city up until 2008. And we no longer have an active MOA with the city for this tax. So that is a question I have posed to Chapin regarding our responsibility towards this.
Now, there are people from outside the city of Burlington
Mhm.
that dispose of materials at the Burlington Drop-Off Center. And we are charging those people, I'm assuming, more to drop their trash off there than we are charging if they went to Essex.
We are not. It's, so the tax that the city charges is contained in the price of the bag.
Correct, but if I have a 5-gallon bag here.
Mhm.
And I have a 5-gallon bag that I'm taking to Essex, do I pay more for the one at Burlington than we're paying in Essex?
No, we are essentially receiving less of the bag revenue because a portion of the bag revenue is going to the city as tax.
So I think we ought to look at that
Mhm.
to make it equitable for everybody that's out there. The other question I have is, could the select board in the town of Essex pass a resolution that charge the waste district money to maintain the roads in Essex that people are driving on to dispose of trash? I think that, Burlington's decision to pick up their own recycling, the people that are doing that need to probably pay more, but I just, it seems like it is inequitable across the district.
I mean, the select board in Essex could pass any resolution that they so desire. It would need to be This is the issue with not having a current MOA. I think it would be better suited as part of the lease, like we have an agreement with Essex for use of the storage there. We have an agreement with South Burlington for some additional support. So that is missing, in part. I don't know why it wasn't done between 2008 and 2016, but we had an MOU that took the place of our lease for 2016 until just this year. So it was referenced in that MOU. So there are some missing years between 2008 and 2016 where it's debatable whether we should have been paying that tax because there was no agreement. We just kept paying it. Regardless, your point is well taken. And again, I requested a meeting with the director of DPW. Lee is aware, and vacation schedule has not lined up. So I think if I'm hearing, I want to make sure I'm hearing your question accurately. So you want to make sure that if there are other benefits that the host communities can receive, they should be negotiating with the district for those benefits.
That was just far out. I just think that a bag in Burlington ought to cost more than a bag in Essex because we're paying Essex some amount of money. And can you tell me how much that is a year?
It has changed. It has just doubled. So their tax doubled this starting July 1, which is another issue that we have because it was not, we were not made aware until early June of the number. It's now $12.06.
Yeah, something in that.
Per household.
Yeah.
Yeah, per household. It was $6. So that tax has doubled. And our original MOA said that we had to include the cost of that tax in the price of the bag. We could not charge separately for that. So again, we are now, it's eating into,
And do we know how
Roughly how much money are we talking about?
it was I want to say it was 400 a quarter.
Yeah, I don't know. off the top of my head, but
$6.
I have to pull that information. I can
So
check.
we're talking a couple $1,000s a year.
Yeah, so it was about, I want to say it was about 450 a quarter, so 1,000 a year, so now it's about 4,000 or so a year. It should be under $5,000. But again, it's not in our budget.
Thank you.
Complex issue it's gonna take time to work through, it seems.
It is, but it is on the radar as something needing follow-up. But thank you for bringing it up, and I will now press the urgency of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we've addressed them. The two items that were requested to be removed from the consent agenda, those were both reports. No action is required, so I'll deem them now to be accepted with the further explanations that have been provided by staff. So I think we're now ready to move on to item number 4, which is an organizational meeting update, a very brief announcement that our last at the organizational meeting was indicated that the chair appoints commissioners to the finance committee, which is chaired by the treasurer who was elected. That is Paul Stabler. And I just wanted to share with the board that the 2 additional finance committee members that have appointed are, again, Rick McCraw from Heinsberg and Lauren Egan from Colchester will be serving. Appreciate the time that you both are willing to devote to this. Also to remind all commissioners that all of our board meetings are open to all commissioners. And we welcome participation. You are welcome to come in here. You just can't vote, but certainly participate. And it is an excellent way to kind of get under the hood of the operations. You'll learn more about what goes on at CSWD at those meetings. It helps you be, I think, a better commissioner. So I can't urge you more strongly than I have. Feel free to attend those meetings.
And Paul, I want to add too that I will be talking to Paul Stabler about adding an investment committee meeting in September. The investment committee has traditionally also been made up of members of the finance committee. And so what we normally do when we schedule an investment committee meeting is we schedule both on the same day. So we would likely have that in September. John and I want to talk with the investment committee and just, kind of again, get that blessing on the strategy for the year. And so it would likely be September 9th, but I will confirm that with Paul Stabler.
Very good. Thank you. This was just informational. We're now ready to move on to item number 5, which is the ORF Organics Recycling Facility. Contamination update and presentation. I believe we'll turn that over to Dan and staff and ask when you begin to speak, just for the benefit of commissioners, especially newer commissioners, identify yourselves by name and your function would be very helpful so we know
Sure,
who's addressing the board.
thank you. So Dan Goosen, I'm the director of the Organics Recycling Facility, also known as Green Mountain Compost. Many of you know it and heard from us in recent years about various things. But appreciate the opportunity to give you this update specifically on our contamination policy. And fortunately, you don't have to hear me talking about it entirely. I brought some folks with us and they're gonna do most of the talking, but I just wanted to introduce the topic because you know, a year and a half ago, this board approved our policy, which was a couple of years in the making and was an important step for us. We've had a series of really good years at the compost facility, a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of improvements. We've realized a lot of efficiencies and a lot of that was due to some investments that the board has made. And so the physical upgrades are kind of behind us now, but we are still trying to improve upon our process and primarily doing so in the quality of the product coming through, trying to prevent contaminants coming in and then also going out with our finished product. And we've made huge bounds on that and it's largely due to, well, there's several pieces that you'll hear about, but investments that the board has approved in the last couple of years, particularly both in equipment and personnel, and it's really making a difference. So we're excited to share that. And I'll introduce Kim Stacy is our Associate Director of Organics Recycling, and Allison Smith. And Kim's been with us for a long time, almost 10 years, I think. And has been very instrumental in the development of our policy and everything else we do at Compost. Allison Smith is also with us, and she is our organics contamination and quality control lead and has been with us a year and a half.
Yeah.
And is our boots on the ground for contamination, but also was extremely influential in how we developed the policy and how we're carrying it out. So Allison's going to be driving this mostly as we talk about how it's gone for this first full year of implementation. So I'm gonna hand it over to Allison, and then any of us are able to answer questions as they come up, or perhaps maybe save them to the end, and happy to talk more about the particulars. I think Allison's gonna share her screen in order to make this a smooth transition, so I'll keep talking, but I promise to make it short. There we go. I think.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so like Jan said, I have boots on the ground, big rubber boots that I have to hose off every time that I go out on the shipping floor. But most of what I do at Compost is to do with the contamination policy. I do a lot of different things going on. But the contamination policy, like Dan said, that was approved by the board just around a year and a half ago. Has only been in effect for a calendar year, so it went in effect on July 1st of 2024. In its kind of infancy, we've already seen some really cool developments, both in our communication with haulers, which is like an external kind of reward that we've gained, as well as we've had improvements in the the tipped feedstock. We've been able to get a lot of the data in, which we weren't able to really compile in a way that was really meaningful before. We've also been able to really have organization-wide people come in, and within CSWD, we've hit a lot of different departments to get everyone kind of getting this contamination policy implemented. And we've also been able to share our presentation on our contamination policy with the composting community. So that's been really good feedback that we've been able to do and participate in that conversation as composters. Just to review, this is the chart of what our policy looks like. Basically, our contamination policy is a volumetric threshold. So if a load is over 5% contaminated, it goes into a contaminated load kind of branch, and that load would be assigned a fee. There's also over 10% contaminated loads that we do see very rarely, thankfully. That might be removed from our facility. It also has a higher fee associated with it. And then outside of those volumetric thresholds, we have what we call incidental contaminants. Those are things that very rarely hit a volumetric threshold, but are still really problematic. The most common one we see are bags of trash. So that would be just a household bag of trash or bag of PP, whatever, included in the compost load. That's going to very easily break open and then contaminate all of that compost. If we get 5% of like bags of trash in a load, something has gone crazily wrong. So that does not happen, but we want to make sure that we're communicating that we don't want those materials at our facility. So the next couple of slides are all about how we're talking to haulers. It was included in the executive board packet. An example, maybe it wasn't. We sent out a newsletter to all of our haulers that we're able to actually personalize to what is coming in from those haulers based on the information that we're gathering. We'll go through kind of the information we get from the load checks that we perform, but to share that information with haulers, talked about how contamination impacts our processes and tailor it to them to really kind of grab their attention has been cool. This is how we also want to make sure that we're showing haulers everything that we're seeing on the ground. So haulers are better placed than us who receive the feedstock. Haulers are better placed to actually implement change with their generators. Everything we do moves up the line. So we want to make sure that all the communication we're doing is as broad as possible so that by the time it gets to generators, all that information has been maintained as it kind of goes up that stream. So all of the pictures that we take, pictures are really, really telling of what exactly is coming in. It also hopefully can help haulers identify routes or generators or pinpoint where that contamination is coming from. This is the backend that I interact with, as well as some other folks at CSWD to actually do the load report. This was built by John Dorwart. So this makes load reports really, really easy. It makes it really fast for me to perform, and it streamlines it. So it can be me or Kim or Dan. Ethan in compliance also does load checks. And this is where the data that we're getting from our load reports is coming from. So we have the contaminant categories that we're highlighting. We have generator notes. We can include pictures in these. And you're able to really build a database and a data set that you can work with and manipulate by hauler, by truck, by time of day, etc. So some of the improvements in organics tip, again, it's only been in place for a year. We have seen some very pointed outreach in schools really improving. School cafeteria streams are still really hard for us. Elementary schools are actually really, really good. Kids really like signs. They like following the rules. As you get too cool for school, you get more and more contamination. I don't think that's directly related. But we have found there's a great example. I forget which school it was, but we had a load that was identified from coming from that school. Rhonda actually had them out for a field trip on happenstance and was able to show them pictures of what their cafeteria trash looked like while they were on site. And I mean, you can take 7th graders or like 9-year-olds around this site and they'll be like, why is there a fork on the ground? And then you can have a whole conversation about contamination. Commercial generator progress. We did have this one really nice example of we had sent emails out to a generator about their break room trash that kept on being in their organic stream. We really didn't want it. That back and forth happened. There was no change until we had a fine associated with it. So having a punitive fine really did enact that change to change a generator's behavior. So that was really cool. And film plastic reduction, as Dan alluded to, the film plastic reduction is more of a mechanical process that we have changed. It's an engineered change back in our process, so not so much as the food waste is coming into our facility, but that is a change in the contamination as it makes it to the final product. I wish that the film plastic looked like this 24 picture all the time. It is always changing, but it definitely never looks like 2022 again. This is a graphic that was included, again, individualized to all of the haulers that we see of what the contaminants coming into our facility look like. If you would have asked me to name the biggest contaminants that we saw at our facility, I don't think I would have put liner bags in the top 3, and it is far and away the biggest one that we see. Liner bags, these are not the compostable liner bags that we accept. These are lookalike products. They're conventional plastic bag. They're biodegradable bags. None of those are compostable, and that is kind of those film plastics that Andrew was blowing around in that last slide. Compostable materials, that would be things like the clamshells, the compostable plastic cups. We don't accept those. We haven't since 2022, still coming into our facility a lot. Some of the numbers on the other side, the text, like I said, most of our, I'm not sure if I said this, most of our loads coming into our facility are great. They're under 5% contamination. They have great feedstock. They're very, very low problematic materials. I think I did around 350 load checks in the past year, and those are the numbers that's coming out of them. So it's not a high percentage of loads that are being fined. It's mostly fine, or it's mostly accepted loads. Accepted loads still do have contamination. So sometimes we will still reach out to haulers when they have an accepted load below that threshold. So this is, again, just pulling out those kind of areas of focus that we gleaned from this year of data collection for our process. Moving forward into this current fiscal year, we really want to focus on school cafeteria trash. We already have an inroads with school outreach in Rhonda. We have identified kind of a school district that is open to CSWD kind of helping implement some programming for them. And the liner bag issue, which we've also done some strides to tackle already. So this was a graphic that actually Joey and Ethan in compliance really noticed the problem of liner bags in CSWD's own food waste dumpsters at our drop-off centers. So this graphic is already out there trying to educate people who are using our drop-off centers for our food waste to make sure that their liner bags are certified compostable. This can be kind of extrapolated into our different social media outreach campaigns, but we want to make sure that we're handling the problem that's at the DOCs first to make sure that we're handling our own problem in-house. But again, the greenwash bags are really, really hard. I have a whole box of pet waste bags that 1, you can't compost pet waste, and 2, they're not compostable. They are green and they have a plant on them, but they are not actually compostable bags. So everyone falls for it. A big problem, or a big part of that cleaner compost that we're seeing in our curing area with the film plastic, has to do with the Aris wind sifter. Like Dan said, we wanted to highlight some of the things that the board has approved through Time for Compost. And this is a new piece of equipment for us that's on the belt of one of our screeners. So that orange machine is screening the compost as the overs, which is the larger pieces of material, are moving over that belt. It is sucking up any of the film plastic that's agitated along. This works really well to get the really light film plastic. If there's anything that's under a wood chip, if it's a rigid plastic, it's not going to clean that very well. But it really has decreased our wind-blown plastic and just the film plastic in general. So this is a map of our facility with all of the different equipment. Again, I am working where it says food waste load checks on the covered side, all the way on the far side of the screen. So that's where I'm focused on. That's where my big rubber boots are on the ground. But at all of these different stages, we have the mechanical separation of contamination that's taking it out of our final product. So I'm making sure and trying to do outreach to stop contamination before it enters the facility. At these different stages, we're kind of utilizing these large pieces of equipment to take it out. Which includes cleaning overs. You can spy Kim in the picture. So cleaning overs, that's what was being wind sifted. Overs are a stream that all composters produce, that is those large, bulky, woody material that is not broken down in the time frame you need to break it down in. So it's mostly wood, but that other fraction is going to be plastic, mostly plastic contamination. So we're using the wind sifter to clean it out. But the final stage of that is actually hand picking. So we have to reduce the contamination that's entering our final product. We're actually hand picking all of the overs. This is, I mean, you can see the process. It's physical. It's spreading out all of the overs with a bucket and like spreading them out as thin as possible and everyone going through with a grabber to take the plastic out. It is rewarding because this picture that you can see my coworker Nick at the very top of, that's a profile picture. So you can picture that whole mound going all the way down. I had to cut it a little bit. It was over, what does it say, 184 tons of woody material. And this is material that they're then able to shred in-house with our shredder and then add back into the composting process. So this is a previously landfilled stream that we had to landfill because of this small amount of plastic. But both with the Aris wind sifter and by hand picking it, we're now able to use it in our process. We don't have to landfill it. It's actually a benefit to us. These are some of the finances that we've gotten just from the fines collected. We have one really big spike in February. That was due to, we had an excessively contaminated load, which is $150 per ton. And I believe that tonnage was like 6.5. So that was our biggest ticket item of the year. We had from one single load that was heavily contaminated. And it's a little hard to see, but the dark green is that incidental contamination fee. So those are the little pieces that we really just don't want on our facility. And far and away, those are mostly trash bags. You can see that the amount of incidental contamination we're getting and the amount of contaminated by percentage loads are kind of changing throughout time. That's really correlates to the problem of school cafeteria waste that we've pinpointed. We were able to see a school stream get more and more contaminated by volume. So that was, we were really like focusing on that. So it changed how we were looking at loads a little bit, or the amount of fines that we were giving out. All right, and then what's next? So we're continuing to collaborate with outreach, with compliance, with a lot of different folks at CSWD. I'm sure they're sick of hearing from compost. But we really want to make sure that we're tackling that school district that we've identified as having higher contamination. That seems like something that we could really enact change in a positive way with students that are gonna like proliferate that into their own community. I mean, I'm sure that students at least go to a field trip at ORF, come home, ask their parents, why don't they compost, or what does happen to their food scraps? The same thing with for the liner bags, just really continuing to hit that hard, especially since we've seen that problem get bigger and bigger at our facility. The hardest part of contamination is that you have to maintain it. You have to keep doing load checks. You can't just send an email and then be done and dusted and like go about your day. So it's the continuing process. And we would love to establish the measurement of contamination. It's really hard to quantify some of these numbers because the contaminants that we can see can be milk cartons, it can be chemical contaminants, it can be all sorts of things. So really deciding and starting that data tracking to measure how successful we are in the physical contaminants. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alice.
So I would just want to thank Allison for putting this together. There's a version of this presentation we brought to a couple different conferences, and it's been really well received, and it's been made clear that our, the efforts that we're putting in are pretty phenomenal, and I think other municipalities and other compost facilities are trying to do similar things, but it really speaks to our team, Kim and Allison primarily, but working with others in the district, we've really put a lot of thought into how to roll this out. And I think the fact that it's still alive and actually working and making a difference speaks to the fact that it is a good policy. And I imagine there will be some questions about how it's received by haulers. So I'll just jump to that one right away. It's gone really well. The numbers you saw on that financials spreadsheet, we're not gaining a lot of revenue from fines, and that was never the goal. But having some punitive tool has been actually welcomed by many of the haulers who have said that they can't do it, like they can't make any impact. They can't have their generators improve their streams unless they have something they can throw back at them. And since it's coming from us, they're more than happy to just pass along a fine. And it's made visible improvements already. And I think over time, as the haulers and including like individual drivers for different haulers are thinking about it every time they're picking up loads now, they know that we're checking loads. And our system with the immediate feedback on the photographs has really been working well. And there's always room for improvement, and we're hopeful that with these new target areas that we'll be able to see even more improvement. But yeah, I just want to thank Kim and Allison for working very hard on making this work. As you know, I don't have to wade through the muck as much as the two of them.
Well, thank you very much. We'll open it up for commissioner questions and comments.
How do you find the loads coming from the drop-off centers with respect to the roll-ons that are at each of the drop-off centers?
So we haven't assessed a fine for any of the drop-off center loads. They're below the threshold for contamination that we've established. And to be honest, in the first year, we were not looking at the drop-off center loads coming in on a regular basis because
Is there much contamination in them?
Compared to a lot of some of the other streams, they're really good. The main thing that we're finding is the liner bags, and it's across all generators. So it's like all homeowners, all businesses, but mostly residential food. We think people are trying to do the right thing a lot. They'll buy the green bag that they see on Amazon or wherever. It says earth friendly or biodegradable. They assume they're doing the right thing. They buy a case of them, and then for the next 6, 12, 18 months, they bring us the contaminated bag. So we think, like, particularly focusing on drop-off centers, we're gonna be able to change that behavior because we have their attention. We can actually interact with them, and it's gonna be harder getting the, larger population, and we intend to work at that as well. But overall, I'd say their streams are pretty clean compared to a bunch of the others. And actually, residential food waste in general that we receive at our facility is pretty good. The challenge is, as you saw in some of those pictures, all it takes is one bag with 100, 200 pieces of something we don't want to sneak through our process and then get ripped up, and suddenly 8-ton load of really good quality food is scattered with trash, and it creates a major headache. So thank goodness we're making huge strides in reducing that, the incidence of that, but it is ongoing.
Thank you.
Other commissioners, questions or observations?
On that note, with the liner bags, does the organics recycling facility offer those to haulers, or just thinking in terms of making it easy for the haulers or the customers they work with to get something that is definitely approved as compostable? Is there other thoughts on how we can ensure that?
It's a great question. We don't presently offer any of those for sale. The challenge is that we're not set up for retail anything at our facility anymore. It potentially could happen through drop-off centers if we decide to go that route, but we've moved generally district-wide and moved away from selling things as much as we have experimented with in the past. Most of the haulers do supply liner bags for their customers, and most of them are good. So I think the challenge, but they're bigger, like they're cart size. So if you have a large cart in front of your house, generally that liner bag is good. What the challenge is like when folks have the indoor kitchen container that also has a liner bag in it, and they bring that out and put it in the big bag, that's where I think we're seeing more problems, because that could be anything. And it's not supplied by the haulers, it's not supplied by us. It is something worth exploring. We've had similar questions recently from other folks. And certainly other municipalities throughout the country do that. Often haulers or compost facilities who do all of their own hauling will do that. And it's easier when you have that direct interface with the actual end user or the generator at the home, which we largely do not have. So something we'll consider, I think, moving forward, but presently, no.
But there are like certifiers, third-party certifiers for compostable materials. That means that it's met whatever requirements are needed for that bag or product, but in this case, liner bag, to compost at a facility like ours. So BPI is the most common. There's a couple other ones that are like a lot of our messaging, or all of our messaging says like a certified liner bag that says compostable.
This might be an opportunity for our website to make some specific recommendations, because it's very clear what you're not supposed to do. But
Yeah.
all well-meaning people, help me with that next step, as you're pointing out, Allison.
Yeah.
Just It'd be
And
really
Jen
good.
and her team have been working on this as well and are developing additional resources. And talked about Joey just went around and stickered all of our containers recently, but there are web resources being developed, additional paper handout resources being developed, and I think social media campaigns have already begun as well, all on this topic. So it is nice to see that, like, well, multiple departments district-wide have been working on it, and recognizing that it is a major thing for the district. Like, we can see, we measure contaminants differently in different facilities, but for us, this is identified thanks to this 1 year of data, like, as a major problem and one that we think we can reduce.
Rick, your hand is up.
Yes, two-part question. The first is, do you encounter products that are not okay, that still carry some kind of seal or even a replica of the BPI seal, basically counterfeit products that to a consumer would look okay, but that really aren't? And the other part of that is, if I've got a bag, is there something I can do to that bag that would tell me whether it is likely to be okay, like truly compostable versus something that's compostable in name only?
So fortunately, I don't think we've seen any counterfeit BPI certified bags. There's a lot of control over that end of things. And in order to get the certification, you actually have to have the word compostable visible on the product. And what we do see is a lot of greenwashing and lookalikes that have everything other than the word compostable, or certainly other than certified compostable. There are still products out there in the marketplace that say compostable and they are not. They don't have any certification. So all of the media that we're producing tries to be explicit, as though it is confusing and hard to do that in short words, but tries to make it explicit that it has to be certified compostable. There are places in the country where they have enacted legislation that tries to tackle that issue, where any green film bag has to be certified compostable, so there you don't have the potential of somebody selling, taking advantage of the color of their film plastic and trying to, make money off of the greenwashing. We were exploring that as well. It's a little bit trickier here in Vermont, perhaps because there are a lot of compost facilities take no liner bag, so we're exploring what it would mean statewide if we were to try to push for something, but it is common. And I see the comment there from Lauren, and specifically, one thing that we haven't mentioned, but pet waste bags, just for anybody out there who has dogs at home and goes around and scoops them up. I'm sure none of you do, but we do see a large quantity of those that come through our facility, and we don't want them even if they are in a certified compostable bag, but most of them are not, we believe. So just a side note.
No pet waste.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments on this? I think the board is well aware of the challenge when we think about our landfill and the volume of organics that are going in there and the need to reduce it. You guys are on the front lines doing yeoman's work to try to get that reduced and turn this into a better product than just something that's going to sit in the landfill for centuries to come before it again sees the light of day. But thank you all very much for all the work you do, for coming tonight and educating us on what you do. It's also just nice to have names and faces here from the whole board. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
We are now ready to move on to item number 6, which is the MRF Project update. And that information is in the board packet, and I presume we'll turn this over to John.
Yes, I'll do a little brief
intro.
intro. So the purpose for this particular update was at the request of some commissioners from last meeting. Basically just wanting an update on estimated projected operational cash flows for the new facility once it is built. And so this was our latest attempt to update with, again, our assumptions as of July 23rd, and what is known as of that date. And, you know, situation is certainly fluid, but we want to get this in front of you again. It has been a while since we've shown you the numbers in this format. And John has put together 4 scenarios as we have been presenting to you in the past. We've kind of kept that to the four different options for scenarios. And we'll walk you through that, those assumptions, and happy to discuss what you see and make sure that that is clear. So John, I will turn it over to you.
I will share my screen and hopefully I'll share my screen. So we started with the 4 scenarios, basically looking at a change in volume and whether or not we contracted out the operation MRF. The basis for FY26 and onward were FY24 and FY25, but of course, when I did this, the June numbers now are somewhat different, right? But I used the various ratios on expenses and how they worked in relation to some of the volumes or revenues to sort of project forward. Given those assumptions of volumes and what we might pay a contractor and versus what we might pay our own folks to operate the place, it's really just sort of running the spreadsheet along. And for FY26, it looks like the MRF, given all of the assumptions listed in the memo, which I was going to get into unless someone has a question, looks like we should have a positive cash flow coming out of the MRF as a standalone entity of $2.3 million, which is nice, but that's prior to having a real big debt service, right? It's interest only. And if we go to the next page, we'll move on to FY27, and we see those cash flows at the bottom. Here is about $1.8 million, comes $800,000, and they decrease in line with our debt service. This is the worst case scenario. We go on down to about $500,000.
So John, I want to just
Sure.
make it clear too that, you know, we're using 26 and 27 numbers for descriptive purposes, explanation purposes. We're obviously not going to be operational in fiscal 26. So it's to be able to show how the numbers would fit into these different categories. So when we're referring to 26, 27, we are recognizing that we're not commissioning this current year. And even if it was in 27, it would be later in the actual year. So I just want to.
It's a very good point, and I was glossing over it, right? But you can see the, for example, the payments to operating contractors should begin to look very different once we go online, which I think begins to happen in 28 in this month. One of the open items is still really figuring out the transition from the old MRF to the new MRF. It becomes obvious when we're looking at the next scenario where we then begin to pay our own personnel. But you can see on a quarterly basis, for example, FY28, Q2, we have negative cash flow because we begin to make first principal payment. But overall for the year, we're still positive. The next page is the next couple of years. We're still in that positive, but you see that occasionally we have these negative cash flows in a quarter and they get bigger as the debt service increases. So this is our worst case scenario, and it could run it out further. It felt like it was really just total guesswork going on beyond 5 years. There's just, there's a lot of unknowns.
It's a dynamic.
It's absolutely, and we don't have all the answers yet, and we're probably never gonna have all the answers until we're fully up and running. But
I just wanted to stop and just for the benefit of some commissioners, because there's a lot of numbers here and some of us
Yes.
don't follow them too well, but the number that I'm zeroing in on, again, accepting that in your cover memo, you've said there are a lot of assumptions in here. And you're only as good as your assumptions, but based on what we're modeling here. And the work that you've done to put into those assumptions done previously, perhaps updated. What I'm still seeing as of June 30th in this worst case scenario, the quarter ended June, well, it's actually the annual total in 2030 still shows this as cash positive.
Still shows it as cash.
And that's kind of an anchoring point that I just want to
And
try
that's,
to point out.
and that's our worst case. And when I looked at it, so I come away with this thinking, well, the project is feasible, given all of our assumptions, right? We still have to build the thing, but once it's built, we should be able to run it and should be able to handle the debt service.
And that's, to me, again, the most important message that I want to try to tease out of this conversation for the benefit of the full board, to have some level of confidence and comfort, you know,
Yes, and
that
I
we're
think-
on that this project is on, it's.
And I
It's
think that's the
doable.
right way to look at this, right? Again, go back to the memo and like, there's a lot of assumptions. So as we move on to the next scenario where we still have the lower volumes. But we don't have the contract where we're paying ourselves, so as we go through FY 25, 26 should be exactly the same numbers. Here's where you see that transition, so the expectation is we begin to transition away from the old MRF, and we can tell because our employee compensation numbers start to ramp up as the payments to the operating contractors start to ramp down. Lots of assumptions on that timing. Who knows how that actually is going to work out, and that can play a big role in what we're showing for the ultimate cash flow. But as we transition over to running this ourselves, you'll see our cash flows in fact improved over the prior scenario where we were paying the contractor. So in scenario number 2, we end up in FY 30 with $1.5 million of cash flow, including all the debt service. And you'll see each scenario actually improves a little bit better. Any questions so far? I'm kind of running through here pretty quick.
I just also wanted to point out for the benefit of everybody here, we're not making a determination tonight as to who is running it. These are again a set of scenarios.
Right, and
Possibilities.
it's what we presented to the board over the years. It's because we have consistently said for many years that we will be going out to bid for the operations of the MRF. And so we haven't gone out to bid for those services in 25 years. It's been quite some time. So with this new facility, again, to be fully transparent and be making sure that we're getting the best value for the public, we will go out to bid. We are working on an RFI at the moment, a request for interest. And that will be going out shortly, and we'll gauge interest in the bid. And then not too long after that, sometime hopefully in the late early winter, Josh, I'm going to commit us to putting out the RFP. So in the next several months, we'll be evaluating certainly that RFI, developing the RFP and getting that out of the street. So we want to get that out again, December or early January. And from there, we'll have obviously much more information to be able to more fully develop these scenarios. So this is, again, an update as of the information that we had as of last week. And 6 months from now, 8 months from now, we'll have significantly more information.
Tomorrow we'll have different numbers after I close.
After you close the books, that's right. After you close the year, we'll have different numbers there too.
And I expect that will make minor changes flow through the
Right.
models.
Right.
So at this point, you've walked us through quickly 2 scenarios, both of those based on lower processing volumes.
Right.
And now we can proceed to
And
the
so the
next 2 scenarios.
third scenario then is higher volumes, basically an average of the volumes we've been getting over the past several years. First of all, where we have a contractor, the FY 25, 26 are identical. 27 should be a little bit different, but still very positive cash flows at the bottom. Year 28 should be at 1.9 million. Year 30 ends with $2.6 million of cash flow. And scenario 4 is the best case, we'll end up a little bit higher than that. So here again, in year 27, 28, you can see the transition where the employee compensation starts coming up. Volumes are higher, so the expenses are proportionally higher than the other scenario. And we end up at fiscal year 30, 2.7 million in cash flow. These things usually work out if we're anywhere close. The truth is somewhere in the middle, right?
So there's some of things that will eventually continue to inform these assumptions, as mentioned in the memo. You know, the transition, right, the start and the stop from when we go move away from the current operations to the new operations. There will be some adjustments in contract there as well. So with our current operator. So that transition is critical, and that is wholly dependent on the construction schedule. And there will be additional costs associated with the decommissioning of that facility and either selling the property or the board decides to repurpose it. So there's still conversations to be had regarding that property. We heard from our attorney today that the bond bank did finalize their sale for the bonds, the interest rate as of yesterday. We still don't have that information, but we'll factor that amortization schedule into the calculations as well. If we are, again, hiring a contractor for the new MRF, we have no idea what those terms are. So until that time, it could be, again, 8 to 9 months from now, 10 months from now, then we bake that back in. We are also splitting out the operating contract from the marketing contract. So there will be an additional component there too. So there could very likely be brokerage fees to move the material. So lots of information points that will still need to be added to the conversation. But again, as of the 23rd, this is where we are. And we had wanted to make sure that the board felt adequately updated and up to date. So yeah, so we'll sort of entertain questions. So if you could stop
sharing so we can see all the
Thank you.
gallery view. Commissioner questions and observations at this point. And go ahead. You're muted.
That's great news. Congratulations. Thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate it.
Well, I think you've done a great job of addressing, satisfying us. I appreciate very much. And John, you're new to the board or new to CSWD, so kind of a fresh set of eyes that I personally think. I'm very glad that you're here looking at this.
Thank you.
Without that history of all the rest of us having seen it, but to me that's very reassuring. And to know you'll be on top of it and continuing to hone it.
Indeed.
Okay, so we will then move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an executive session, 2 items, discussion of the MRF status, construction and permits, and also real estate transactions concerning Flynn Avenue. We have a motion to read into the record.
We do. Motion for the Board of Commissioners to enter executive session to discuss pending or probable civil litigation related to the MRF and to discuss real estate transactions related to the Flynn Avenue property to which the district is or may be a party and for which premature public knowledge would clearly place the district or other public bodies or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage, and to allow staff and legal counsel to be present for this executive session.
So moved, Essex.
Seconded, so.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we enter into executive session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We will now move into executive session, exit executive session. But I thought it was only if somebody questioned the presence of a quorum. I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about, do you need a motion to exit executive
We
session?
do need a motion to
Yes.
exit executive session, and whether or not a quorum is needed for that. And whether a quorum is an issue if is not raised as a concern by a member of the body.
I would say if you lose a quorum, I think all you can do is adjourn, so that's, you know, you exit it, I mean, by virtue that you can exit session.
So how are we doing?
Adjourn.
Yeah, we did not have a quorum, so we can ask for others. We can ask for other business, there can be,
There's no-
the only vote that can be taken is to adjourn.
Well, but we also need to exit executive session.
We can't vote on it. So you can now say we are back in public session.
I can declare it without action.
Okay, we're double checking.
Do we have to say we're leaving executive session? Has that step has that step occurred?
That step has not occurred. We're just trying to figure out a quorum issue.
Gotcha.
Must have it by now, don't you, up there?
We've got Ken, Lauren. We were short.
That's a little
I'm gonna go.
neat.
Mike, is Mike on?
Yeah.
So,
Missing Andrew.
Is
Tom,
just there.
that on.
Oh,
Barb
yes.
is on? Tom is on.
This is Andrew. I'm here.
I'm sorry, Andrew.
You're
Yep.
just here.
Mark.
No worries.
Yep, Marty's.
This is here. Jamie? Katie?
Yep.
Yes. we did
Okay,
get it.
I move we exit executive session.
Seconded sounds really good.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we exit executive session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Is there other business to bring before the board? Item number 8.
After before she died, some of her friends started reaching out to her, she was leaving her father to say like.
Somebody's talking.
There's no other business. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
It's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all.